back from our dinner break. Recognition of visitors and delegations. Would anyone like to address the board? No? Alrighty then. For approval of minutes. Annual reorganization minutes of 7/8/2014.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. Approval of regular minutes from 7/8/14.
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Measure passes 6-0. Correspondence and communications.
Yes, a couple items. You should have minutes from the Budget and Finance Committee meeting held yesterday at 12 noon, and also the tax warrant that is on the agenda for you to act on. That should have been passed out in front of you and in front of you. Also, we have an addendum for appointment for a coach and 3 teaching positions. And last, on the advisor agenda item, we have a late notification of an individual who will not serve in the capacity as freshman class advisor. So we will remove that individual's name. We've already posted that position and expect to bring you somebody as we September 2nd meeting. And that concludes correspondence and communications.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Knoll. Board committee reports.
Yes. Oh, you're.
Well, there's the revised minutes from June 17th for BG&T.
The revision were just the people who were in attendance.
Yeah.
Yes, because I wasn't.
So is everybody okay now with the attendance?
I know, it was nice.
What was it revised by?
It was revised because it had me present and I. that
Oh,
was one I-
okay. Yep, yep.
Okay. And then there is the committee, Budget and Finance from June 17th. That was also revised just for,
John, I can report on budget and finance from this week.
okay?
Okay. The Budget and Finance Committee met on August 12th. I was the only representative of the committee there. We reviewed the tax warrant. Mrs. Mandel reviewed the proposed tax levy and fund balance, reserved and unreserved. After inputting final equalization rates and assessments for all 4 towns, it is recommended to continue to apply $1,177,000 of the unreserved balance to the 2014-15 revenue budget and levy taxes in the amount of $32,896,802, which are both consistent with communication to voters in May 2014. The increase in the tax rate is 1.7% for the town of New Hartford. The committee recommended the tax warrant be presented to the Board of Education tonight at our meeting. We also talked about a draft calendar for the Budget and Finance Committee for the 2014-15 school year, and Mrs. Mandel provided us with an update on the status of all pending tax cert claims. And we adjourned at 12:30.
Just, Mr. President, just as a point of order, and I don't know, do we need a quorum of 2 at committees to have a meeting of 2 voting members?
I don't know.
I don't believe it's in the bylaws.
Okay, I just don't know.
Items for review with the other 2 members.
Right, yeah, they were reviewed. They were reviewed by Tom.
Okay. Old business, second reading of policy.
Mr. President, just an update on, I've contacted the town highway superintendent, let her know what my role is for the board as liaison in that respect. We've got a meeting set up with, well, we're trying to set up a meeting for next week with Town Supervisor Tazinski, and I'll start making the meetings and get with Mayor Ryan as well, and let them know so they can call if they need to ask a question.
Wonderful.
All right?
Thank you. Anything else under board plans? Okay. Old business, second reading of policy. So it is recommended that the following policy be presented for the second reading. Early retirement incentive program.
One more reading, right?
Number 8, new business, personnel. Resignations, elementary teacher.
It is recommended that the resignation of Stephanie Iozzo from the position of elementary teacher be accepted with regret effective August 31st, 2014.
Move.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion.
What happened?
She's moving.
I know her. That's bad. She's awesome.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. B, teacher's assistant.
It is recommended that the resignation of Josette Lasher from the position of teacher assistant be accepted effective July 14th, 2014.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. C, school monitor.
It is recommended that the resignation of Dana Mackey from the position of school monitor effective June 30th, 2014 be accepted.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. D, coach.
It is recommended that the resignation of Michael Kelly from the position of assistant varsity football coach be accepted effective July 16th, 2014.
Move.
Is there a second? Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. 2, leave of absence, elementary teacher.
It is recommended that an extension to an unpaid leave of absence be granted to Joanne Sherman for child rearing effective September 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015.
Move.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. Didn't we just give her the leave?
This is her second year.
So what does that mean in terms of the callback? I don't understand the callback. Is she come back next year or is she on the 6-year?
No, she can come back. She's not on voluntary layoff, that she would be under the 2-year leave within the teacher's contract, so she can come back next year. Her position though was put onto the bid list.
Right, so what happens when she comes back? She goes back, she's guaranteed a job or she's guaranteed that position?
No, not that position. She's guaranteed a job.
And she can come back after, if she notifies us prior to the end of the first semester. she can come back for the second
Exactly.
semester.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. 3, appointments, director of athletics, health, and safe schools.
Wait, you missed one.
Oh, sorry, DPA.
It is recommended that an extension to an unpaid leave of absence be granted to Melissa Gentile for child rearing effective September 1, 2014 through February 25th, 2015.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. 3, appointments, director of athletics, health, and safe schools.
It's recommended that John Bannock be appointed on probation to the administrative tenure area of Director of Athletics, Health, and Safe Schools. The service shall begin on September 2, 2014, and end on August 31, 2017. The appointment is certified permanent when school administrator, supervisor for a school district administrator in physical education.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes, I would just like to tell the board that Ed and I were both on that committee. Bob was in attendance, and Mr. Bannock was above and beyond a number of candidates. He impressed us both times during his interviews. And when we got down to voting, it was almost unanimous. This is the person we felt would best lead New Hartford. And there's one comment that impressed Bob and the rest of us was that when he said he wanted to put athletics on the same scale as academics here in New Hartford. I think he's doing a great job.
Great job.
And do you want to add?
I just want to echo everything that Paul said. The process was great. The team worked together well. There were highly qualified candidates. I mean, look, there wasn't anybody there that wasn't qualified, that had done an athletic job before, was not an administrator. So these were, top quality people. Over 40, applied, and he definitely was the choice. Yeah, I mean, he outshone in both his presentation and on paper. He's got a good vision. And he's the kind of guy that I think that both Pam and you, recommended for Paul and I to look at. Somebody with a demeanor that is one of de-escalation,
Right.
that can bridge gaps, and somebody that we think will fit that mold and are exactly what we need at this time.
Well, and I just want to publicly thank Ed, Paul, Alan, and the whole committee, because I know, there was a lot of time involved. You guys had some all-day interviews, so we really appreciate the time. you
Yeah,
guys put
Alan
in.
did a great job
Yeah,
as
it's
chair,
good.
preparing us with papers and everything we needed, and followed phone calls and whatnot else. So thank you, Alan.
It was a fun, great process, great experience.
Will he come in and we'll meet the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. B, teacher's assistants.
It is recommended that Caitlin Kerr is hereby appointed on probation to the tenure area of teacher assistant. The service shall begin on September 1st, 2014, and end on August 31st, 2017. The appointee is certified initial in students with disabilities 1 through 6 and childhood education 1 through 6.
Moved. Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. C, advisors.
It is recommended that the list of advisors for the 2014-15 school year be approved as presented by the senior high, junior high, and elementary principals.
Moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. D, part-time driver education teachers.
It is recommended that Cynthia Cercelli is hereby reappointed to the position of part-time driver education teacher. The service shall begin on September 1st, 2014, and end on June 30th, 2015. The appointee is certified permanent in the areas of social studies, 7 through 12, pre-K through grade 6, common branch studies, occupational education, trade subjects, and Department of Motor Vehicles. 238B permanent.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. E, coaches.
It is recommended that the following coaches be appointed for the fall 2014 sports season. Paul Bisaccia, assistant varsity football. John Keaty, volunteer varsity football. Jerry Piteresi, volunteer modified football. Lori Hunt, assistant modified cross country.
Any addendum?
And it is also recommended that Mike Tizik be appointed head coach JV girls soccer.
Move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Right.
Discussion?
Yeah, just if we could, Bob, could we get, we've approved a lot of our football coaches, and we've had some leave. Could we just get a list of, who's doing what? As approved now? I know we've approved at least 6, paid varsity football
I
coaches.
just received this today, I don't have copies.
Okay, great.
You can take a look at it.
Okay,
All right?
great,
I
yeah.
think I put something in the Friday letter that
Yeah?
that outlines it.
I didn't
Yeah,
see it,
back in
sorry.
July 11th.
Okay,
I don't have copies of it, but that's
Okay.
what I received that today.
okay. So there's still one more to be appointed?
Yes.
Okay,
We
right, good. Thank you.
We had a resignation coming for They're still in the process of structuring some of that, but yeah, they're still open.
Okay, all right, great, man, thanks.
Is there anything going on that's spurring on this movement, or is it just natural?
No, individual, I think, got a job up in Hamilton
Okay.
College. Nothing, there's still 4 openings. There's a girls modified field hockey position opening, a JV head football coach position, a girls varsity swim volunteer position, and a girls JV cheerleading position. And I expect to have those on September 2nd.
Well, it's assistant coach for JV football, right? It's open.
I
Oh, the head
believe-
resigned?
The head just recently resigned, not that individual.
Oh.
He's gonna cover it until such a time that we appoint the next JV football coach. So
Okay.
there's still some movement going on, but all the coaches from varsity level will pitch in and cover it until September 2nd.
Okay. Okay, yep.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm gonna abstain because Mike Tezak is married to my cousin. So, 5-0. F, deputy claims auditor.
It is recommended that Sandy D'Onofrio be appointed to the position of Deputy Claims Auditor effective July 1, 2014.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. G, school monitor.
It is recommended that Renee Kowalski be appointed to the position of School Monitor effective September 4, 2014.
Second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. H, substitute bus aide.
It is recommended that Sandra Nowicki be appointed to the position of Substitute Bus Aide effective September 4, 2014.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. I, part-time school monitor.
It is recommended that Diana Scarfile be appointed to the position of part-time school monitor effective September 4, 2014.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 6-0. J, permanent substitute elementary teacher.
It is recommended that Gina Stagliano is hereby appointed to the position of permanent substitute elementary teacher. The service shall begin on September 1st, 2014, and end on June 30th, 2015, pursuant to the agreement with the collective bargaining unit. The appointee is certified initial in early childhood education, birth through grade 2, and childhood education 1 through 6.
Motion. Jim and Paul second. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. K, permanent substitute elementary teacher.
It is recommended that Erica Kloster is hereby appointed to the position of permanent substitute elementary teacher. The service shall begin on September 1st, 2014, and end on June 30th, 2015, pursuant to the agreement with the collective bargaining unit. The appointee is certified initial in early childhood education, birth through grade 2, and childhood education 1 through 6.
Moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Passes 6-0. I, permanent substitute elementary teacher.
It is recommended that Anthony Guria is hereby appointed to the position of permanent substitute elementary teacher. The service shall begin on September 1st, 2014, and end on June 30th, 2015, pursuant to the agreement with the collective bargaining unit. The appointee is certified initial in childhood education 1 through 6.
A motion.
Moved. Second.
So are all of these permanent, these are the people that are filling in for the maternity leaves? and all?
Yes, so like if Joanne wanted to come back next year,
Okay.
then it would be one of those positions. That's why they're being appointed as permanent substitute
Got it.
teachers.
And are these all at Hughes?
No, these actually happen to all be at Brandon.
Brandon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0. B, Committee on Preschool Special Education.
The recommendations from the Committee on Preschool Special Education's meeting of July 7th, 2014-3 and July 9th, 2014-2 are presented for approval.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes. To be very honest with you, I hardly look at these. It's almost like a boom stamp on these. I don't know if you guys look at them. And I'm just looking at one here, date of birth 7/13/11. And I don't understand the rules on this, but if they're barely 3 years old, they're gonna be recommended or classified as a preschool with disability, they're getting services.
Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
gonna start that young.
Yeah.
And the way it was explained to me by Ashraf, because again, we don't know the student's name, we don't, all we know is the age and, you know, it was explained that the board is kind of the safety valve if they feel that the recommendation somehow was awry. We, on Ashraf's recommendation, would reject it, then it starts the process over. That's how it was explained, because really, we have no information to say.
Yeah, we've never rejected anything.
Right.
As far as I know.
But that's a good question. I mean, regarding your specific question, yeah, I mean, it's 2 years of preschool that you're eligible prior to kindergarten.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0. C, adoption of tax warrant.
It is recommended that the tax warrant for the 2014-2015 school year be adopted.
Move.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0. We have to sign that, right?
Yes.
While that's coming around. D, resolution to approve BOCES contract for services during the 2014-2015 school year.
It is recommended that the BOCES contract for services for the 2014-2015 school year be approved.
Move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, so the total is 249,366? Or is it the, or what's the total amount?
On page 6.
Very last page, sorry. Yeah. Total contract cost is $5,328,491.
And where does that compare to last year?
It's just shy of last year, in the end, about 250,000, but in the end, we do, as we go through the year, remember we buy technology and things on computers through BOCES, increases, and changes in placements for students too,
Okay.
throughout the year. So it goes up and down, especially in the students with special needs area.
Yep.
Okay.
It'll depend on needs, sometimes we look at services and decide we're gonna go through BOCES, but BOCES is.
Thanks, guys.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0. E, school safety officer agreement. Oh, I'm sorry, physical therapy services.
It is recommended that the bid for physical therapy services for the 2014-2015 school year be awarded to Developmental Therapy Associates.
Is there a motion?
Moved. Second.
Discussion.
Are these the same people from last year?
And they're the only ones that bid?
This year. And usually they're significantly lower in cost than other bidders that have bid on this.
And how was it cost-wise compared to last year's cost?
Last year, it's within $1 per hour, so it's a slight
Okay.
increase.
And these guys are out of, where's their,
Their physical therapy associates are the local, or there's
Okay.
a local firm. Sometimes there's a firm out of Syracuse that
Yeah.
bids as well. I can't remember the name of it, but they did bid this year.
did a bid?
And we also we compare also with the BOCES cost.
Okay. And so this is lower than the BOCES cost?
For BOCES, but not the extra BOCES aid, as we always talk about, that's a different aid category.
Okay, so it's not a
We
refund.
automatically get that aid.
Gotcha. Great.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Measure passes 6-0. F, school safety officer.
It is recommended that the resolution be adopted approving the one-year agreement with the Town of New Hartford Police Department for the School Safety Officer Program.
Move.
Second.
Discussion.
Go ahead.
Well, my question was just, I know that when we had discussed this initially, we paid a great deal of attention to the fact that there would be a cruiser located outside the school
Same
building.
question.
And I don't see that specified in this contract. A cruiser, a police cruiser?
It's my understanding it would be a police car.
I just don't see that, it agrees to have an officer on site, but not a cruiser.
You want to amend it to incorporate that?
I would like to, yes, because I feel like that was part of,
Yeah,
what we
that was
talked
kind
about
of
as
part
a
of the-
deterrent.
We'll amend the agreement to reflect that.
Is everybody else cool with that?
Absolutely, yeah.
That was my question.
That was my question too.
It's under the cost.
It's under the cost?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make me feel better.
That's fine.
if it was-
Yeah.
We'll add it.
But we don't have the cost in this agreement. You have the cost.
We have not to exceed $130,000 from the agreement, from the initial cost out, and that was approved by the PG&T board as well. They're still finalizing details based on training, but it won't exceed that.
Which is what,
So this is the one-year agreement that we
That is
talked about at
correct.
BG&T. We also talked about having some kind of a survey before we go ahead and approve for the following year or
Right.
years. I just wanna make sure that happens. So that's on the community relations agenda or something, or how would we do that to make sure that, we assess it, it's a pilot program.
I
We
think
assess it.
CG&T can take a look at it from the internal side, and how it's functioning there, and maybe you guys can take a look at it externally and how it
Okay.
works.
Sure.
Well, I was under the impression that this makes it seem like they are active officers that are assigned. I thought it was retired police.
Yeah, but they're fully fledged officers, they're back in uniform, they should be badged, they should be retired police
So they're
officers.
pulled from the retiree pool, but once they do this,
Okay.
they become, I guess, active officers.
Yeah.
But are they paid a different rate because they're working on this?
They don't make so much money to be retired.
Okay, so that.
Yeah, and there's no retirement benefits.
Right.
It's strictly salary.
For us. Well,
For us, yeah, for cost.
So, we're not voting on this, we're gonna have it be amended?
No, we'll amend it, we can vote on it, we can go ahead and vote on it as amended.
As amended.
Reflect the
Yep.
patrol count
Okay.
in the agreement.
Any further discussion?
Great.
No, I don't know.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0. If you could just, when it's amended, provide us with the amended version so we can
Close
close
the
it.
handwriting in initially.
And then this goes to
Okay.
the town for approval, when?
County has approved it, but we're gonna send it approved with that amendment, and I'm sure we'll be on that.
Okay.
Okay, just so we close the loop. Perfect. G, budget transfers.
It is recommended that the May 31, 2014, and the June 30th, 2014 budget transfers be approved.
Moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Passes 6-0. H, authorization to execute agreement.
It's recommended that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent of schools to execute a memorandum of agreement between the district and the Hartford Teachers Association administrative board.
Second.
Paul got the second. Discussion.
This is, as per, okay,
This is, they have the director of athletics, health and safe schools, and for that. That's all, that's all.
gotcha.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes 6-0. 9, other business. A, review of Board of Education standards of conduct.
distributed in the prior letter. and we
Oh,
just
we
have
have
to-
copies of the video.
All right, so, does anyone want to discuss anything?
Yeah, I just thought that since at the last meeting, we looked at our whatever it was, our board policy, I just thought that it would be at the beginning of the year, we would look at this, whether we look at it now and have a chance to review it and vote on it, next time, or however you wanna do it, I just wanna make sure we're
What
all.
would we vote on?
Not to vote on it, just,
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's just an agreement that we all just agree to.
Just a refresher,
Any,
yeah.
if there's any changes we wanna be made or concerns we have on any of these, I thought the beginning of the school year would be the appropriate time.
All right. Well, why don't we,
It's too long to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just
Why don't
take a
we
look
just
at it.
we'll get it offline and
right,
come
if
back.
anybody has
and-
any questions?
Yeah.
but, I think we're off to a good start, so let's keep the momentum.
Okay, good.
B, reports of the director of athletics. Oh, well, we kinda already got that.
No, I requested that he put it.
Oh, all righty then.
Okay, I have no handouts. On two other occasions, I mentioned to the board about the possibility of having a committee that the athletic director would report to. And after the last meeting, you directed me to go and have a charge as to what the committee would do and what the AD would present. Upon examining my thoughts and thinking about this, I'm gonna still discuss this, and I'm gonna back off on the committee. What I thought about, and I mentioned this to Bob just the other day, is that possibly the athletic director could come and present to us, as CJ does about his department, between the fall and winter seasons, what went on in the athletic department. As a new athletic director, he could come in and say, I think maybe this part of the department is running well, maybe this part needs to be worked on, I wanna change it, this is what I'm gonna do. Last spring, we were supposed to have a pilot program on playing time. I don't know if it was ever assessed, if it was ever done. I think he needs to know about that, I don't know if he does need to know about that. If it was not done, maybe we can include a pilot program for a different season, so at least we get feedback on it. These are just general things that he could come to us and explain between each season. If he's having a tough time getting coaches, he could parlay that to us. Just in general, come and report, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, rather than have a committee meeting.
Great.
Very good.
I would also, I mean, I don't know if there's a plan to do that. I mean, is there an opportunity like we did with the new principal for us to just, not meet with him, but just touch base with him? Because like, for example, to Paul's point, there was so much discussion that came out of the athletic committee that we participated in. Just to sort of, just talk to him in a very informal setting and just, get to know him a little bit and talk to him.
Individually or as a board?
Either as a board or, I guess I didn't, because we didn't participate, like, when we participated in the principal, like, we knew
Right.
what their plan was gonna be when they first started and where they were gonna go, and maybe that would be addressed by kind of what Paul is, but I would love to maybe hear from him, maybe in the short term, just hear all of us, I think would be helpful to know kind of what his plan is as he gets started, and then maybe like progress reports on that, like.
Maybe he has an entry plan.
That's what I'm looking for, sorry.
We'll get an entry plan, and then, am I hearing you correctly, we'll want to present 3 times a year after each sports season, or 2 times?
There'll be 3 after each sports season.
Okay.
And then you could tell us how things are going, if he projects to see any problems or issues with coming up, his needs. I mean, but again, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you met with Pete weekly or twice, so you'd be meeting with Mr. Bannick the same amount of time? So it's throughout the whole year then?
Any new administrator.
Okay, no, just, all right, that's good. That's it. Thank you.
I had 3 little items for other business. One has to do with the coaching. I just saw in the paper there's new mandatory training for coaches. Did you see that?
Concussion?
No, I thought it had to do with, child abuse.
They may make reporters.
I just want to be sure that the new athletic director is aware of this, so we don't have.
I think the new one that really needs to be paid attention to, because that's part of it now, but is concussion management. It's now a requirement. It was a once-time shot, and now it's every 2 years. And that's not on our list of courses, you know, when we see them. So concussion management, it's not an online type of class and stuff like that, but now it's a New York State requirement.
Well, that's exactly my point. We have this matrix, but now the matrix may be outdated.
So what you want is an updated matrix.
Well, I just,
Any new choices.
yeah, it's kind of like there needs to be continuing professional development for the athletic director, because it seems like the requirements are changing
Constantly.
for that. And we just need to have confidence that it's not on us to read it in the OD, tell him he should. I don't know how to do that, but. Then the other just small thing I had, so when you go on the school's website, there's a contact the board email. And I feel like it's a little bit misleading, and I want to avoid a misunderstanding, because I think someone will think that when they send that, they are contacting the board and we're all getting whatever they're emailing. And that's not. Okay, now, not a lot of things go through that, but I'm just, for discussion, would it help that if there was some qualifying statement for, you know, when you submit this, this is going to the administration who will determine the appropriate, I don't know, I just,
Well, aren't our individual email addresses listed there?
yeah, but there is, and again, there's only like 2 or 3 times a year somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that was infrequent.
Very
State
infrequent.
one, and another one was referred to the president, not to proper change.
And again, so this isn't an issue, I'm just trying to think of, I don't want it to be an issue.
Let me ask you a question. It depends on how the website is coded, but they can set it so that instead of having a form that you populate, like you just, if you click on who's ever John's
Right.
email address, it opens in a separate window in your email
Right.
agent, and it would just send an email to you, which would go directly to you.
Right.
So maybe the easiest thing to do, instead of putting a disclaimer on a thing that then will go and has it, why don't we just get rid of the form, and if someone wants to email, you just click, you know, you can say mail, send mail to, and colon, and then our email address.
Or just
Yeah.
put coordinates.
I just felt like
Yeah,
it was
well, each of our
misleading.
email addresses are on there, I think, like as a link, do you know what I mean, that you can just click on an email.
Or maybe they should all go to John. Maybe you should contact the board, contact the president.
Contact board, yeah, or contact board president.
I don't think so. I think it's great the way it is. The community has an opportunity to write to the board with a concern they have, and then simply getting that for our next board meeting, and then the board discussing the dispensation of that. For example, it may be something, you know, along the chain of command. Oh, this is for Bob, or this is for who, and then we can, in the minutes, you know, and send back an email, say, we've addressed this, but it's not a board issue at this point. Here's how we disposed of your concern, and here's what process you can do, you know, subsequent to what we've done. I think it's a great communication tool with the community.
Well, but my fear is that someone comes up to you in the grocery store and says, did you get my note? I sent it, I contacted the board through the website,
Right.
and we didn't get it because it doesn't come to us, it goes to Bob, and then he takes care of it. So that's,
If
and
it's a
maybe it's
chain
not
of
an issue,
command
maybe I'm
issue.
making an issue out of nothing, I'm just trying to
I
discuss.
mean, I don't think we all should discuss it at the board level, who it's gonna be given to, delegated to, that's not our role
Right.
here. I think perhaps it should go, if you're concerned about that, it should go to you as the board president, perhaps set it up something like Beth did, and then you with Bob determine what the chain of command is. If it's something to bring to the board, then you'll make sure we all get copies and write a letter or something.
No, I respectfully disagree. I think we should all get a copy of it. It should be in a Friday letter every week. Whatever comes to that email address should be in our Friday letter every week. And if it makes the agenda for the next meeting, it makes the agenda for the next meeting. But it's
So
great.
it would be under correspondence and communications?
Well, if you're going to do that, then I would ask that every time you go to the grocery store, every time you go to the ball field, every time you go anywhere else in the community, that you write it down and then we bring it to the board meeting
Yeah.
and then we
Right.
discuss it, because what's the difference between the two? And I don't think all those things belong in the board.
No, I agree.
The difference-
Right.
Just like Ben Farrar indicated when we had that training session.
Well,
And I think the better way is for just to go directly to you as board president, or directly to your email address if they want to do that.
The difference is it's an official process by which to say whatever you want to say to the board. The grocery store doesn't make any difference. What makes a difference is that you're willing to put your name on it and send it to all the board members for whatever dispensation. We're elected officials.
well, and I would
We
say.
have to have some opportunity to receive and respond to the community.
But I would say, actually, that form does not necessarily, doesn't necessitate a name on it. Somebody can send
It
something.
should.
Well, and but that's what I'm saying, if you do it so that email John, you can send an email to John, and it will have your return email address on it, because it will come from your email client. And then, I think, what I don't think needs to happen is that if an email comes to us or is sent to John, that is clearly needs to go through the chain of command, that we need to act on it at a board meeting and go, yep, this needs to go to the chain of command. I'm fine with receiving an informational copy of it as part of the Friday letter, but if it's clear, I think that is, that the policy's there, we already built the policy, we don't need to then reevaluate everything
Right,
against
and
that
like I
policy.
said, I'm not, again, this only happens 2 or 3 times a year. I just, when I realized that it's set up as contact board, I was imagining quite easily a situation where someone feels they have sent something to the board and we never got it because it was handled
Well,
administratively.
yeah, you could get the letter and say, I received this in correspondence and communication. You know, if it's something that, again, we give you the authority as president to decide if it goes through the chain of command, or it's something that you think feels it warrants board attention.
No, we don't give them that authority. Sorry, don't. There's nothing in the bylaws that gives them that authority, and we have not given them that authority.
What, so for instance, there was an email that came that had a question about a uniform, a tennis uniform, da-da-da. Clearly not a board issue.
Right.
Okay, that comes in. What does the board feel that, how should that be handled when it's sent to contact the board?
That wasn't sent to contact the board.
But
Just
hypothetically,
hypothetical.
Right.
what if that was sent to contact the board?
Then the board receives it in the Friday letter. We say, hey, in correspondence and communication, hey, this is for the coach.
That
I-
doesn't
I
happen in a
don't-
board meeting.
I don't think that needs to, once it comes to the board agenda, it becomes a board,
Yeah.
Right.
It's correspondence and communication.
But I think there has to be,
Why can't you just
When
send
someone
out-
writes a letter to the board, let's say someone wrote a letter to the board regarding that, we'd all get it, wouldn't we? It's the same thing.
yeah, but it wouldn't necessarily make it on a board agenda. It
so
would
then
be
what,
Okay.
so then what if this?
I think that there's a
Instead of getting on the board agenda, it's just included in the Friday letter.
That's what I just said.
That's right.
Okay.
So we handle it.
You
All
handle
right,
it,
so
exactly.
then the website doesn't need to change because anything that goes in there actually would be,
I don't think people should have the opportunity to send a letter anonymously through that channel, that, I think if somebody has a concern, that there should be some obligation that, enough with the anonymous, mailed letters, some obligation to schools.
What's the only way to get back to somebody? This has to not be anonymous.
okay, and again, there hasn't been an issue. I was just trying to be proactive when I realized that, so.
So we'll place it in the Friday letter, and we'll let you know that it's referred to the appropriate.
Perfect, yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Or it's gotta be brought in front of.
Or it's gotta
If
be,
it's valid, then it's
Right,
valid.
of
Right,
course.
okay.
great.
Wonderful. The last thing.
John, we had a
Yep.
workshop, and the district paid for an attorney to come here and let the board know exactly what your role is as board members.
Right,
And we do have a chain of command.
right.
So, I don't think if you get something, you refer that, we are probably overstepping our boundaries now. That could be an administrative thing.
Well, I
handled
think
by the-
handling it is, I think the difference is if the person feels that they wrote a letter to the board should see what they wrote.
I agree with that.
Yeah, we don't have to act on it, just like if they sent an anonymous letter to anybody, doesn't necessarily warrant action. But, yeah, we received it and it's.
And it's been followed up on.
Right. It's been referred to. So, great. Last thing I have for other business is, I've asked Bob to give just a review of what are the procedures we have currently in place for when there is a breach of security or a breach of safety or something like that. So, I'll turn it over to Bob.
We had a process in place since 2010, that an incident report form is completed and submitted to my office.
And who completes the incident report?
And where the issue happens, the transportation could be in a specific building.
Well, but I mean, is it the principal or is it the person that came upon?
Principal, designee, or the training supervisor, building and grounds, the assistant superintendents.
What are the categories of the form?
What was the form look like?
Yeah, and what are the categories? And when would a form be filled out?
When there's an incident, an injury, damaged goods, pass it on.
Theft?
It says damage, describe injury and or damage incurred.
So it's not theft, it's not,
Could be theft.
it's not a security breach?
It could be a security breach, it could be any kind of incident.
Okay, but for example, the guy that came to the guy that came to Bradley there and caused a little scene, that would not initiate this report.
It could.
It could, but it did.
We probably would get it differently, we'd probably get more of a memorandum report. There's a report to be issued anytime an incident like that takes place. Building safety team should review the situation, submit a report to the district safety team, and come up with recommendations for changes, and if those changes are warranted district-wide, district safety team will implement those, and then there's a report placed on file, an incident file report.
Okay, I guess I'm looking at incident report, student form. I guess in all incidents of a security breach, of a theft, this is something that is of very high importance to me. When we have something like that, and for example, the computers that were stolen this summer. What initiates a form like this that, within 24 hours, the board gets to see it, that we know that this is going on, so that if we're asked about it, we know what's going on, that assures an investigation happens, and that assures that corrective action is taking place, so that from beginning, I'm used to incidents like that having a beginning, a middle, and an end, followed on the same initial report. And I guess, because people have to be held accountable for that. I mean, people walking in and stealing shit. And it needs to be communicated in a very timely fashion. So that did not institute a report form, an initial report form, and did not institute a communication to the board, and something else needs to happen, in my opinion.
Well, I think what happened is initially they were investigating it and working with the police department to find out. And then as soon as I received that email, which was, I believe, late on Monday, and I didn't see it till Tuesday morning, and opened it till Tuesday morning, immediately forwarded it over to the full Board of Education. And then there was in this past Friday letter, we received some of the remediation efforts. And I indicated in this past Friday letter that we were meeting, which we did, and we refined it. So we're in the process of refining it and ensuring that doesn't happen again.
No, I got you, and that's great, but to me, that's not a process, it's not a procedure. I mean, that you, the fact, didn't know it until a week later that 3 computers were stolen disturbs me.
I was aware that they were investigating the situation, I didn't have a fact check.
Okay, but 3 computers were stolen, and
We don't know if it was 3 at that time, or 7, or 10, they're looking into it.
whatever. But at the end of the day, it was an ad hoc process. Tim Crow, who is not accountable to the board, wrote something regarding the incident. Jennifer wrote a nice remediation report. She's not accountable to the board. Nothing in its management from you came to the board regarding a timely knowledge of the incident, timely knowledge of, without requesting the information, then we get it. So I'm just saying that that to manage serious incidences of safety and of security, we should have a documented process, not ad hoc, a documented process that begins with an initial report of incident sent to the board within 24 hours, and then is continued followed up on until it's closed out.
Well, you know,
Is that the board wants?
I would question whether or not it's appropriate for the board to get an incident report for every incident.
No, for security and safety, for security, oh, without question.
Well, but it depends on what the security is. So if one, you know, if one cell phone is stolen,
Why not? It gives us an idea of what's happening regarding security at our schools. And I'm talking about, you know, but the guy walking across the street and confronting the girl.
well, that's a very good.
You know, that was a week late. The guy that walked into Bradley,
Well,
That wasn't.
it wasn't
But see, the other thing-
communicated in an appropriate fashion.
Right, but the other thing we have to watch out for is, you know, and it drives me crazy, it happens on TV all the time. We're at the scene and we don't know what's happened, but something's happened. Well, you know, that's why we have Bob on the scene, he's getting the facts once he knows what's going on.
Great,
And sometimes it takes a little time, and that's.
perfect.
That's what happens.
Let's start the report. Start the report, not an email, but start the report, say, hey, it looks like we've had a breach of security. It looks like we've had some equipment stolen.
But I
Oh,
don't-
that starts the report.
Right, and that's fine, but I don't think it's appropriate at that time. Again, depending on what we're talking about, I don't necessarily think it's appropriate at that time to be notifying the board until he has all the facts.
Why? That there's an investigation going on regarding drugs, or there's an investigation going on regarding a crazy guy at the door?
Well, again, I think it depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about safety in the sense of physical harm, to me, that's different than, I think something was stolen, but I'm not sure. Let's look. Did someone, you know,
I'm just saying, John, it doesn't matter what it is, but when those kinds of instances arise, they're significant. They are placing the security of our school at risk. When a guy walks into our high school, takes 3 computers during broad daylight, when we have these policies in place, that's a problem. And our kids are not, and to know about that a week later is a little disheartening.
I think, from what I've understood, we do have procedures in place, and we do have, can they be improved, can they be looked at? Everything can always be improved and looked at, and it might be a perfect time, given that we have the new AD, that's gonna be the safety, safe schools, to have him also be involved in reviewing procedures that we have and whether or not they need to be improved.
Maybe that's the way, but again, it concerns me that we know about this for a week. I don't know when Bob knew about it, but no matter what, here's our head security and safety guy. Here's the guy, the safety guy doesn't report to us. You know, how Bob handles it is his business, but Jennifer doesn't report to us, the principals don't report to us, they're not accountable to the board, Bob is. And so, you know, knowing these serious incidents is going on in the school is something that we should hold accountable to know at the earliest possible convenience, whatever information is available, and that we can monitor its closeout. And we know that at the end of 2015, we had 5 incidences of security breach.
Well, see, there again, so we have to be careful with how, you know, again, we're up here in charge of making sure that there's the policies in place, and then there's the implementation of the policies. And so, you know, I agree, it would be helpful to have, you know, quarterly reports of how many incidents there were or whatnot. But,
Some process.
well, but there is a process.
No, there's not, it's ad hoc. You know, I request information, Tim Crow gets some. Jennifer follows up. It may be handled differently the next time. Where is it all in the file? How do we keep track of how many times this happens during the year?
So it does,
I mean, this is something.
That report is generated after every incident.
right, so it always starts on this report. Now, maybe this report needs to be revised or improved, but
That was
this,
reviewed by the district safety coordinator.
okay.
That individual fills out the report every time incident takes place.
So whether it's a theft or vandalism or crazy guy at the door,
Or a bus incident.
this is so as it stands, this is the procedure. And so every time that there is an incident, if we're following procedure correctly, there should be one of these in the file for that incident.
I have,
Should submit it to me.
Okay. And so then what is the procedure? So this would start. So computers are missing, this is filed, so this is the starting point.
Or a written document, if they want to extrapolate off of that.
Okay. And so then.
so this was started when we first knew of the theft.
What I received that day in Florida was the first written documentation I received.
Right, but you knew about it. So we should have started this report.
All I knew is there was an incident and they were looking into it. Okay, it's not a lot of information to get out. And when I received it, I provided it.
So the other thing we have to remember is there are procedures, but it's also an organization of people. So the procedure is only going to be as good as people following the procedures. So all the way down to whoever noticed that it's gone. And so we need to work on both procedure and education, I think, for, just like you say, you strive for 0% industrial accidents, but you know there's going to be something. So you try to educate what people are supposed to do when there's an incident.
All I'm saying is that in cases of security breaches or of a significant security issue, that the board knows, not a week afterwards, but the board knows that something happened and that it's being followed through fruition. Because this is not micromanaging. This is something of significant that we need to be engaged with.
And I don't disagree with that, and I don't think anybody on the board would disagree with that. I guess I'm just not quite certain that we're not already doing that.
We're not. We can't be doing it. When we've got our SRO going around the neighborhoods asking who knows this person, and the board doesn't know about it until a week later, that's a problem, John.
What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
we're-
Well, yeah, I mean, as soon as the incident happened, as soon as a picture came.
Which incident are we talking about now?
The theft. We were a week before, the board knows, we're going around looking for a particular, do you know this man? He just stole computers out of our school. All right, now, the neighborhoods know that it's happening, and the board doesn't.
See, I didn't think there was that big of a lag.
There
time,
was.
so maybe
I
I'm.
have the information as I received it.
I understand, but well, you must have known that he was going around with the thing.
I didn't have a copy of it. So I provided the information as I received it.
Okay, so,
So the community knows, the community knows that there's a theft, and we don't.
Where was the breakdown of information to you?
I provided the information as I received it.
No, I'm saying we got the information as you got it.
It's a personnel matter that can be discussed in
Okay.
executive session.
okay, but so,
And it was being investigated up until the point I received that written communication.
but I think the more important aspect is what is the procedure, and to be sure that we have a good procedure in
Procedure is to
place.
file a written report and get it into my office.
And so-
From there, it'll be provided to the Board of Education.
And so I understand the beginning process. So something happens, that's filled out, it goes to you, board's notified. What is the
May or may
procedure?
not notify the procedure for that as well.
Okay, what is the procedure for ensuring closure?
Well, I believe we provided you in the Friday letter with what we were doing, okay? And I indicated that there was a meeting being held this week to review that, and we can share that document with you as well.
But I'm just, again, just not from a specific standpoint, but from a generic procedure standpoint. So this goes in the file to start.
Right.
Is there a form that goes in to say, this is how it was resolved?
There's to be a meeting about the building safety team to discuss it, and possibly district safety team, and then the final report outlining a summary of the incident, what remediation efforts took place, and what was resolved from it, what did we learn from it, what else can we do? That's on file, and that's on file for several instances in the district as well.
And that needs to be provided to the board.
If the board wants it.
I want it, because this is our kids we're talking about.
That's your
Well,
opinion, the
yeah.
board has to
Okay,
decide.
that's right, that's exactly right. That's why I said I want it.
I believe we've notified the board numerous times throughout the last 3 years of instances that have taken place throughout the district. We try to get that information out to you as quick as possible. whether it's timely or whether it's enough information. This is the first I'm hearing of an incident where it wasn't provided timely or not got
Yeah,
enough information.
I didn't
We
take
have
away.
instances like this all the time.
I didn't take away that we weren't timely notified of this incident. You know, but then again, I wasn't aware that a week before people were going around. I was under the impression that it happened, if not the day we were notified, the day before.
No,
Um,
but if you read the reports, it was on the 23rd and we were notified on the 29th.
Okay. So let me ask the board, do we want to receive copies of final dispositions of all investigations? And let me ask you, how many investigations are there? I mean, are there 50, somebody stole a pack of gum, and or is it?
There's a lot of those. It depends.
I mean, that's the only
Well,
thing.
this is also the same form that we use if a kid falls and skins his knee on the
Right.
playground, right?
Right. That's not what we're talking
I don't need to see the
about.
conclusion of this. And I
It's
think
not.
anything else that rises to that level, for example, the incident at Bradley, came to a board committee.
Right.
I don't think.
Maybe the
I need to see
reporting- maybe the reporting goes-
If a student has an asthma attack, an ambulance comes, we're not gonna.
And we get
push a
out- and we
report,
get the
but
email.
we're usually getting
Right.
phone
Right,
calls.
so it should be medical, but if there is something that is safety related, but again,
We notified you when we had a couple.
Theft, violence, drugs, security.
We
We
were
were
notified.
notified.
We were notified.
What do you mean?
We were
We were
notified.
notified of banning an individual from our facility, we were notified of somebody coming to our
but do we
facility
want to
trying
start,
manage-
do we want to start
notified.
getting the actual incident
No.
report and the
That's job
resolution?
for the administration.
Okay. I just, I respectfully disagree with the board. I think this is something that we need to be engaged in. That if we're gonna move forward with our policies being followed, with single point of entry, with making sure we know who's on our buses and those kinds of things, and that these are so significant that it could put our children at serious risk of harm and injury and death, that I think we need to be a little bit more engaged in that. But that's me.
Do we want to at least require a report out on the disposition? So that we're not getting, I mean, there's one or two ways, there's three ways you can go about it. You can either, an incident happened, and then we assume it's done. An incident happened, we get a start report, and end report, or we get notified like we've been, an incident happened, and then we get a final report, just verbally, at a board meeting, from Bob saying this was the disposition, or in Friday letter.
Well, oftentimes, I would say the majority of incidences that we've seen, the dispensation has happened at the same time that the incident occurred. For example, we've had a couple of medical issues, there have been a couple of bus incidences where we've said so-and-so bus was involved in a collision. this
Yeah,
and that.
I'm talking more along the lines of crazy guy out front.
And we did receive an ongoing report.
I don't.
This is, we're saying the same thing over and over again. I gotta go. See you
Have a
later.
safe trip.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What's your big?
I've been doing right along, been fine. If there's something major that comes up, I know he's gonna get hold of us as soon as he knows. In the case of the computers, if he didn't know anything, I don't need to hear from him, well, I think there's one computer missing, we're investigating. I think when he gets the information, and he gets it to me in the case of a computer, not in the case of crazy people, that's fine.
I mean, it would be frustrating if something happened and the public knew about it for a week and we didn't know. But, so I think we would want to avoid that.
Well, I do think it's gonna be, I think that
That
the
happened.
policy that's in place that governs how quickly Bob receives information should, I don't know what that's written, whether or not that is at the board level, but I think that that's something that we should do, because he can't, as you pointed out, give us information that he does not have. But I also don't think that a computer was taken, it might be one, it might be two. I'm perfectly comfortable receiving notification that we thought a computer was missing, we conducted an investigation, here's what occurred, we did further investigation. I don't need to hear this computer's missing, we're looking into it, oh, we looked into it a little bit more, here's what we found, oh, here's what we found when we looked into it. I mean, that we have procedures, we have people in place, we have a school resource officer, that's what they're there for, that's what their job is.
But why don't we do this? Why don't we, because again, it's a perfect time to have some fresh eyes to look at the procedure that's in place with John Bannon coming on board. Why don't we, as one of his first tasks, you know, I mean, after he gets,
All the coaches in place.
well, find, figures out what the bathroom is, let him take a look at the procedures we have in place and make sure he's comfortable with it as the chief safety officer. If he thinks there's something that needs to be improved, and we go from there. And, you know, I would just ask that, I think I thought we were getting timely updates, but just please, if there's an incident, as soon as you find out.
Safety on administrative meetings, this information is communicated, we have procedures in place. It's reviewed by the building safety team, reviewed by the district safety team.
And when there's a breakdown.
There's a
it gets-
final
right.
report on file.
Okay. Wonderful. Anything else under other business?
Yeah, I have one item for executive session, pertaining to pending litigation. I'd like to invite Attorney Gavitt and Attorney Shields into the executive session.
And I have one item for executive session pertaining to an individual's employment rights. Motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
All in discussion, all in favor? Opposed, abstained. Motion passes 5-0. And Bob, Lisa left because she has a flight, she said she wanted